Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Many Faces of Cancer podcast. I am your host, Melissa Grosbel, and joining me today is Peggy Velasco. And Peggy is a 16-year breast cancer survivor. She is retired, living in the villages of Florida with her husband and their dog, Scout. She has 2 sons and 1 grandson. She was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer back in 2008. She had a mastectomy with reconstruction, chemo, Herceptin, and 10 years of Femara. So that is quite the treatment program for breast cancer, and we're going to dive way into that. So welcome to the show, Peggy.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
I'm so glad to have you on. And before we get started, where is the Villages in Florida? Because I grew up down there, and I don't remember where that is.
It is an hour north of Orlando. And we're kind of in the middle of the state, so we could get to either coast pretty easily. And we love that part of living in Florida, plus all the sunshine.
How far away from the ocean are you either way?
Well, if we went to Daytona that side, it's really just a little over an hour. But to go to Clearwater in the Gulf side, which is my favorite, I like the white sand, it's about 2 hours.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yes, I grew up on Anna Maria Island, which is about an hour and a half south of Clearwater. So I love those white sandy beaches.
And I want to go. I've heard it's just beautiful.
I'm not so sure right now. I think that they are still recovering from the hurricanes last summer. They got hit very, very hard by Helene. Mm-hmm. And my mother-in-law still lives in Bradenton. And she said that they're still cleaning up. I mean, it's still beautiful. It'll always be beautiful, but there's still quite a bit of mess down there.
Yeah.
So maybe wait a little bit longer.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I think I will. Yeah.
And then my niece and her family live in Port Orange, so right outside of Daytona. So I've got family on both coasts.
Well, you need to come for a visit then.
I keep telling my husband that.
Yes.
I haven't been down there in almost a year, and I am so missing the water.
Yes. I bet.
All right, so let's dive in here. So take us back to 2008. Take us back to where you were, what was going on, and how you were diagnosed initially.
I would say in 2008, I, at the time, thought I was living my best life. My kids were grown. I was married to a wonderful husband. We had great friends, a big, beautiful home. And I went for my routine mammogram like I do every year, and they found something suspicious. And I just couldn't believe it. And I thought, why do you go for mammograms? And I think a lot of us women are still that way. You go, but you never expect to get called back. It's like going prevents it in my head in some way, but it obviously doesn't. So I went
especially
back.
if you've had years and years and years of nothing. That's just kind of what you come to expect.
It's just routine. And so I went back for a second mammogram, and they said it has to be biopsy. And got the biopsy, and you just never forget that call.
Yeah.
I mean, I really was hopeful it was going to be benign. And then I was at work that day when I got the call that it was breast cancer. And I mean, I can still picture where I was sitting, what happened next, and then, sharing the news with your loved ones, which is very, very hard, especially when you tell your mother. I think telling your mother is very hard because I'm a mom and I know what that must be like. Mm-hmm. And
now, do you have any history of cancer in your family?
No, none at all.
Yeah, I think that makes it even harder because I was the same way. I have no history of cancer in my family and definitely did not expect it. I didn't know until afterwards that only 5 to 10% of breast cancers are actually hereditary, that the rest are all from some other reason. Yeah.
Yeah, well, mine was estrogen driven. So we know that played a role in that. So yes, it was a shock. It was a big shock.
Okay. Yeah. And we all have that. We know exactly where we were. I actually I don't want to say celebrated, but I just marked my 2-year anniversary of when I got that call a few days ago. And it really shook me. Like, last year I was just really excited to, hey, I'm cancer free. This year it was a little bit more, oh my gosh, this is something that I need to process. So I can't even imagine what I'll be like 16 years from now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I celebrate every year, and I tell everyone it's been 16 years, it's been 15 years, it's been. And I hope sometimes I hope people don't think I'm taking the credit for it because I'm not. I'm just thankful. I'm just thankful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like you went through quite a treatment program. I know that Herceptin is given to for HER2 positive
Yes.
cancers. That tends to be definitely more aggressive. I didn't actually realize that it had been around for that long. I know that, my doctors told me that 20 years ago, if you received a HER2 positive diagnosis, like you were at least 50% chance you were going to be gone. And now,
Wow.
now they've made all these advancements with Herceptin and other things. So it's not that way anymore. But I don't know if, what it was like 16 years ago, when you were diagnosed.
Well, luckily there was an acquaintance of mine that had been through breast cancer, I think 2 years ahead of me, and she reached out immediately when she heard about me, sent me an email, came to see me that day. And I said, "Oh my gosh, I have to take this drug, Herceptin, which I'd never heard of." And she said, "Oh, I did too." I go, "You did?" And see, that's when it helps. That
Mhm.
normalizes things because you look at this woman 2 years out and you're like, "Oh, okay, well, she had to do that." And I know it was rather new at that time, but I'm thankful for it. Very thankful.
Yeah.
And by the time I started the Herceptin, they don't start that till after your chemo's over. So,
Really?
yes. Well, no, I take that back. I really can't remember, but I thought maybe it was in conjunction, but then you still have to keep going for the Herceptin infusion after the chemo.
Yeah,
And
I
there's
think
no
that's like
side effects.
36 weeks or something like
Yeah.
that. They want you on the Herceptin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no side effects to the Herceptin. So that was a breeze compared to the chemo.
I think almost anything is a breeze compared to chemo.
Yes, yes, I agree. And I honestly, you think about, well, I don't know that I would do chemo again.
Really?
I
Why do you
just,
say that?
because it was horrible. And
Okay.
I hate to be that way because I'm not a negative person, but it was very hard. I didn't have, like, I didn't throw up and that kind of stuff, but it made me very, very tired and weak. And I had to get blood transfusions.
Mm.
And I just, I don't know if that's what's given me 16 years. And if it is, I'm so thankful. But if someone said you have to do that again, they'd have to promise me, promise me something to get through it. It was, I think part of it, you take prednisone too at different points in your chemo cycle, and it gets you way up there, and then they take you off of it. And I think I would have a real drop in my energy, my mood. I would get very depressed every weekend after chemo, very depressed.
Wow.
But I'm here, so I guess I shouldn't complain. So,
Well, I mean, I think we can all complain a little bit. Like, cancer sucks. Like, no matter what the silver linings, the blessings, being, 2 years out, 16 years out, whatever, it still sucks. No matter
it
what.
does.
And I mean, I think that we all have earned the right to be able to complain about that. I
Hmm.
think that, I don't know, I consider it more venting.
Yes.
Because to me, complaining is you don't want to do anything about it, or you're just going to stay stuck in that. And obviously, you're not staying stuck in chemo sucked, but it
No.
does. And I
Hmm.
don't think anybody out there is going to say, "Oh no, chemo is a breeze. Chemo is
Yeah,
great."
I don't think so either. And the
No.
whole process just changes your body totally. That's been hard for me, even now, 16 years later. Not the breast so much. Losing the hair was horrible. But even now, I have the side effects still from the Femara. Um, I have no, I can't think of the word. Metabolism. My metabolism is shot.
Okay.
from the chemo, from the Femara.
Now, is
I
Femara an
can't,
aromatase inhibitor? Is that what that
yes,
is? Okay.
yes. And so, therefore, it makes sure there's no estrogen anywhere. So, if you think you gain weight when you go through menopause, try sucking it all out of you with Femara for 10 years. So, I struggle with that issue. And, but again, I'm here. So, I make the best of what I have. But yes, it does change you physically for sure.
And I'm sure emotionally and mentally as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We talk a lot on this show about kind of that end of active treatment, that there's almost, they have you bang the gong or ring the bell or whatever it is when you're done. And it's very exciting to be done with active treatment, but you've been like in this pattern for so long, and you've had people taking care of you for so long, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, you're cancer free, good luck. And you're sitting there like, I don't know what to do now, so I don't know if you had any of that or not. I've talked to several people who have gone through a bit of an emotional roller coaster kind of when that ends.
I did, but for me taking the Femara for 10 years, I saw my oncologist during that whole time span.
Okay.
So I've always had a little bit of that security blanket, if you will, of seeing him, doing a follow up. And then, yeah, it's like, okay, go live your life and act like nothing ever happened. No, that's not how it works. So, yes, I'm thankful for the drugs, not thankful for some of the side effects.
Gotcha. Were there
Mhm.
were there other than the weight gain and stuff, were there other side effects from the Femara?
I didn't personally experience that many. I mean, typical menopausal symptoms.
Okay.
Anything you go through with menopause will be amplified when you're
Yay.
taking. Yes, yes, Femara. But again, after going through chemo, it's like I
Yeah.
can live with that. Hmm.
Maybe they do that on purpose, so you don't complain about everything that they put you on afterwards, right?
Maybe not, but I gained weight during the chemo. Well, I don't know if it was the prednisone or my lots of different factors because I didn't get sick and throw up. And you get that funky taste in your mouth, like a metal taste. So I would eat M&Ms to counteract it. But I remember one day going in for my chemo and stepping on the scale, and I go, "Oh, something's wrong here with this scale." They go, "What? What?" I go, "There's no way I weighed that much." And they go, "Yeah, that's your weight." I said, "Look, I can be bald or I can be chubby, but I am not doing both. We have to fix it." And I cried. I'm
Oh,
sitting in the chemo chair crying because I felt like everything was out of control. And those poor nurses were like, "I can't believe this girl's crying." From then on, I had to back onto the scale. They didn't want me to see the number, and I didn't want to see the number. So
sometimes if M&Ms get you through, like
exactly.
just enjoy the M&Ms. You've earned it going through all that
Yes,
crap.
yes, yeah.
That's all right. All right. And so here we are 16 years later, and no recurrence, no nothing. Everything is
No,
wonderful.
knock on wood.
Knock on
Yes,
wood. Yes,
yes.
I know. And we still go get checked every year.
I get, see, I only had one breast reconstructed and I kept the other one,
Okay.
which looking back was a big mistake. I wish that I was just so overwhelmed. So I have to get a mammogram on this one side every year. And it's traumatic. I mean, I'm just a mess every year when I go for that mammogram that they're going to call me and say,
Mm,
which really that's not the big fear, getting in my breast again. It's it metastasizing
right.
somewhere else in my body. But I think going for that mammogram just kind of brings it all back. But yes, so far I'm doing great, and I hope and pray that I'm over the hump. But we all know there are women out there that it returns years and years down the road. So I'm just going to take each blessing each day.
There you go. Enjoy each
Mm-hmm.
day. And
Mm-hmm.
I will say, so like I said in the beginning, HER2 positive is one of the more aggressive forms of breast cancer. So that is a true testament to Herceptin and to
Yes.
the drugs, because that, like, Herceptin is specifically designed to attack HER2 positive cells.
Yes.
So that is like great news to hear if
Mm-hmm.
anybody is on the fence, and I'm not saying to do it or not do it, because I personally, I chose not to, and I was HER2 positive as well. So you and I are kind of, two pieces, but it is nice to see that, the survivability is very good by using that drug. And, we should be very grateful to modern medicine for coming up with
Yes.
things that attack specific. I really like hearing about more research going into drugs that attack specific things, immunotherapies and things like that, that maybe at some point we can be less dependent on chemo, which kills everything, and
Exactly.
maybe find more things that will just be able to attack specific cells.
Yes, definitely. I agree 100% because the chemo does it just floods your body,
Yeah,
obviously.
it kills everything.
It kills everything. And why can't we just target where that's at? But I understand they are worried the cells are out in your bloodstream somewhere, and this supposedly fixes that. So,
And those cancer cells are sneaky, and they hide, and they, float around, looking for some other place to take root. And hopefully, chemo gets rid of all of that.
yes, that's the plan.
Yeah. And I will say I am not advocating one way or the other. I personally believe that everybody should make their own choices for their
Mm-hmm.
health and not be scared or bullied or cajoled into doing something that they don't want to do. But
Mm-hmm.
it's an individualized treatment, and everybody should be able to make their own choices for what they want to do in their treatment.
Definitely. You have to be your own advocate, and I needed support system, which I have with my husband and my sister and lots of other people. But one thing I would recommend too is when I was first diagnosed and they said, go to this oncologist. Okay, I went. I did not like him. I did not like the office. There was something about it that it just gave me a bad vibe. And I left there and I said, I can't go to him. So a friend recommended this other oncologist, and I had to go get all my records, which is an effort when your rug's been
Sick,
pulled out from under your feet.
right?
Those kind of things are hard to do. But I said, I'm going to do this. And I got them and got in with this other oncologist, loved him. It was night and day. I remember he started explaining the tumor and all that, real medical stuff. And I said, stop. I don't want to know all that. Just tell me what I have to do to get rid of it. And I'll never forget him saying, this is your ship and you're the captain. Okay, so now what do we want to talk about? And I mean, I just loved that man. I really did. He was in the right profession. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
The doctors that you have, I mean, it's so important.
And the nurses,
Yeah. Oh
because you
God,
really see
yes.
them more than you do the doctor when you're going through chemo.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
it's interesting. And I hope 14 years from now, I am sitting here talking the way that you are, because you and I have such a similar story. And, the first oncologist that I went to see, there's nothing wrong with her. She just came in and she's like, okay, this is what you have. This is the treatment plan. This is what we're going to do. Do you have any questions? Like, straight shot. That was it. And I'm a warm fuzzy kind of girl. Like, I need my doctors to care about me. And, especially an oncologist, when you are scared to death about chemo of all things. And I said, I cannot work with her. And I
Good for
was
you.
recommended to somebody else. And my oncologist is, I mean, she gave me a hug the first time I saw her,
Oh,
and
that's
she
perfect.
just sat and listened to me. And it was just kind of the best experience ever. And,
Mhm.
again, I chose not to do the chemo route. But I asked her and I said, will you still be my doctor? Because I just love you and I want you to monitor me. And she said, absolutely. You can't get rid of me that easily. I will be here for the duration. And, that's what makes just people who are meant to be in their
Yes,
professions.
definitely. Definitely.
Awesome. And it sounds
Mhm.
like you did have a really great support structure when you were going through treatment and
Oh,
everything.
I did. And let me tell you, and my family will agree with this, I am the biggest baby in the world. And that's what I would want other cancer patients to know. If I can do this, anybody can do it. But yes, I would get upset and cry and scared. And my husband, who has since passed away at the time, um, would just listen to me and let me cry and just say, "You're going to be okay." That's all I want someone to tell me. You're going to be okay. And it took a lot of hearing that over and over and over for me to believe it. So,
And
yes.
that's one of the things about this podcast too, is letting people know that you're okay. You're going to be okay no matter what happens. I mean, people can be metastatic and terminal and it's still going to be okay. It may be a
Mm-hmm.
different okay, but there is life. There's life after cancer. There's life during cancer. And hopefully people can really take that message.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's what I would want to give that hope to someone else because so many people gave it to me. And I just think you got to pay it forward.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I think the more people that can be out there sharing their story, the more advocacy there can be for others to either go get checked or find some kind of support when they're going through it so they know that they're not alone.
I don't know how someone does it without support,
I don't either.
without a spouse, a sister, a friend. My best friend from Missouri held my hand while I had my head shaved, and we both cried. But yeah, I think you have to have it. So,
And for those people out there who may not, who don't have a lot of people around them, who maybe aren't married, don't have family nearby and stuff, there are so many support groups. There are, you know, Facebook groups, there are subreddit groups, there are groups out there with people in them that can be your support system. So don't go through it alone.
definitely.
Reach out, find an organization, find a support group that can help you get through this.
Oh, yes, there's a lot of options out there like that. I remember one of the first days of my diagnosis, I called this 800 hotline thing that came on a pamphlet from the doctor. And
Yeah,
the
because you
nice,
were before like social media really took off.
oh, yes.
Yeah.
And so this nice lady answered, and she said, "Well, honey, you're part of a sisterhood now, and it's not going to be easy, and it will bring you to your knees, but you'll be a better woman for it."
Oh,
I'll never forget that. Never. I can still kind of hear her voice saying, "It'll bring you to your knees, but you're going to be a better woman for it."
that is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And what do they say? It's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up.
Exactly. Exactly. And look what you're doing with your podcast. I mean, that you've been through this road and now you're a better woman for it, in my opinion. And I'm sure several others would agree.
I'm at least trying to pay it forward, definitely
Yes.
by sharing stories and
Mm-hmm.
letting people know that they can get through it.
Yes. That's it.
Beautiful.
Definitely.
All right, so you said that you just mentioned that your husband passed away. Was it pretty soon after?
No, it was 3 years
Okay.
after my diagnosis. I mean, I felt like we had just kind of gotten our lives back. My hair was growing and he wasn't feeling well. And long story short, he was diagnosed with bladder cancer and passed away 2 weeks later.
Oh my goodness.
So just when
Wow.
I felt like I was getting over one horrible time in my life, then I faced, his loss. And it was like, Lord, I don't know how much more I can take. And it was very hard, especially because he had been such a rock for me. And I really didn't know how to navigate without him. But again, my sister and my best friend and my kids and lots of other people supported me and helped me through. And I've since remarried to another wonderful man. And God blessed me with another love. So I'm very
That's beautiful.
thankful.
So tell us a little bit about how dating was then. You found another love. How is dating after breast cancer?
It's interesting because I guess I have quite a bit of self confidence. I mean, there are times I look at in the mirror and go, "Oh, what a mess." But when I decided after Bill passed away to date again, I thought, well, they can take it or leave it. I mean, because one of these things is not like the other, okay? And so I dated a couple. I went on Match.com, dated like one date with a couple people, and I thought, oh no, this isn't working. I'm not interested. No, I just don't think I was ready. But then I met my current husband, Rick, and I don't know if it was our. Once I knew there was really a connection there, and I wanted to see where it would go. We were at dinner one night, I remember, and I said, "I need to tell you something." And he goes, "What?" I said, "I had breast cancer." And I don't know if that's an issue for you. If it is, that's your problem, not mine. And I had sent him a picture of me on the beach with some girlfriends prior to that. And he goes, "Is it your right one?" I go, "Yeah." He must have gotten that picture.
Blew it up, right?
Yeah, or something. Because I go, "Yeah. How'd you know?" He said, "I could tell in that picture you sent me." But anyway,
Okay. So you knew
he's
right
obviously,
then that he was the right one, right?
yes, exactly. Yeah. So he's never had an issue with it. So that's what I want other women to know. I wouldn't say anything on the first date, or I wouldn't say anything till I knew there was a reason to say it.
Okay.
I had a friend, and she would tell him on the first date, "Oh, yeah, you need to know." No, you know what? They don't really need to know that on the first date. Why? And that's just my opinion. If you're not wanting to have a second, third, or fourth date, why bring that up? And
True.
I think it can be very off-putting, possibly, to a man, because you don't share other personal things. That's not who you are. That's just a part of you. And I guess I felt like who I was way more important than one fake boob.
I mean, unless you plan on hooking up on the first date, not that there's
And
anything
I
wrong with
definitely
that, then it
know.
might be a good thing to at
Yes, and
least
that,
prepare
yes.
them. But
Yeah, you're right. I didn't think about it in that way. And some people do, and that's totally your
oh, sure.
life. Yes.
Okay.
But I was, yeah,
Just
that
maybe
wasn't
wait
it.
until like the third or fourth date until
Yes.
you're sure that this might actually go
Yes.
somewhere
I
versus
just
like,
would,
hey, it's me. And I've like put breast cancer survivor on my profile.
yeah, yes, exactly. Just don't let that keep you from going out there and finding someone if that's what you want to do. Because again, you're not breast cancer. Breast cancer was just a phase in your life. And it never leaves you. I mean, the disease leaves you, but that part of your life probably never does. But that's not who you are. You're the same person you were before, and maybe even better, maybe kinder, maybe more compassionate. So you have a lot to give.
That is absolutely beautiful. I think a lot of us just we lose a part of ourselves through this whole thing, and some people never get it back and
Mm-hmm.
feel like they're always less than. And you're right. I think we're more than because we've come through this incredible or unbelievable experience and we're stronger and braver for it.
Mm-hmm.
And we should be proud of that.
Yes. And I was in a very dark place for a while. And I didn't think I'd ever be fun again. And I remember telling my best friend, because we did things with our husbands, couples all the time. We were doing something, and I said, "Will I ever be fun again?"
Aw.
And she said, "You are still fun." I said, "Not really." But I did. I got fun again. Really, for me, once the process started, once I knew this is the surgery I have to have, this is the treatment, and once it all started, I felt much better. I thought, okay, we're doing something. I can do this. It was that in between phase of the shock and just sitting there waiting for the other shoe to drop. Once you know, for me, I could deal with it much better.
Okay. It's that fear of the unknown kind of thing, I guess.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I deal with that even still. I guess maybe a lot of people do, but um, I had a minister say once, and I try to remember this, not what if, but what is. What is right
Explain that.
now? What is right now? Right now, you're healthy. Right now,
Mm.
you are living in Florida. If you start doing the what ifs, it'll take you down a really bad road. And I've had to learn to do that.
Yeah. Because
Mm-hmm.
there's coulda, woulda, shoulda, but it doesn't
Mm-mm.
change anything.
No.
A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people think, well, what if I had done this, or what if I hadn't done this, maybe I wouldn't have gotten cancer. And, that just takes you down a dark hole. Like you said, it's like, okay, this is what is, I can't change it. So what do we do with it now?
Exactly. Yes. You
I
have to
love that.
look forward. That's why your rearview mirror is this big. Yeah, this big, and your windshield is this big.
Right.
So, yeah.
I say, don't look back because you're not going that way.
Right. Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes, just keep looking forward.
Mm-hmm.
That is beautiful. You have had
Mm-hmm.
so many just great little nuggets of advice for
Well,
everybody
thank
today,
you.
and I absolutely love that.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's only things that other people have shared with me. I'm just sharing it on.
I don't think anything that we talk about on this show ever is brand new information. And I also think that people will hear it when they're ready. And you can say the same thing 100 times,
Mm-hmm.
but that 101st time when they're ready to take it in is when it lands. So I say the same thing over and over and over again on this show a lot. And at one point, somebody's going to be ready to hear it.
Yes, exactly. And the fact that you put it out there in the universe is your gift. Mm-hmm.
And I love I look at it as a legacy almost too. I've actually had two people that I've interviewed who unfortunately have since passed. And, this podcast episode is something for their families to be able to hold on to.
Oh my
Not that I want
gosh.
more of that to happen,
Right.
but in this business or in this realm, I mean, that is the reality. And it's wonderful for family to be able to, have a piece of their story forever.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a great gift they'll have then.
All right. So
Mm-hmm.
again, we've talked about a lot of different things, but if you could sum up, not even sum up, just one biggest piece of advice that you would give to someone who is either just starting on this journey or they're in the muck of it and they just are in that dark place, what would that one piece of advice be?
Reach out. Reach out and ask for help if you need it, and let other people in. Sometimes you want to isolate yourself when you're in that dark spot. But I would say, let other people in. And something I heard too, which I try to remember, is what would you do if your days were numbered? Because they are. For
That's
all of
true.
us, our days are numbered. When you hear that C word, you automatically think, oh, this is it. But none of us are leaving here unscathed. So just don't lose hope. And um, again, if I can do it, anybody can do it. So, and it gets better. It just gets better.
I love it. Those are all perfect pieces of advice.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So thank you so much, Peggy, for being on today and sharing your story and sharing all of this wisdom 16 years out that you have learned. And I'm so excited for you with being able to find new love after the loss of your husband
Mm-hmm.
and and becoming fun again, which I can't imagine you ever weren't, but I'm glad that you found that fun again.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Melissa. Thank you. I've enjoyed this chat and I hope it helps somebody. I
Wonderful.
do.
I think it will.
Mhm. Good,
All
good.
right. Take care of yourself. Here's
Okay,
to
you too.
continued survivorship.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And maybe this summer get over to Anna Maria and enjoy the beach.
Oh, I hope you do, and I hope I do.
Right.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Take care.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye-bye.